This topic is called Case Studies in Participatory Urban Design. The contents of the presentation are as follows. Learning objectives. Introduction to Case Studies. Case Study 1. Map Kibera. Case Study 2. Porto Alegre Participatory Budget. Case Study 3. Helsinki Urban Living Lab. Comparative Insights. Key Takeaways. The learning objectives of this topic are to understand how participatory planning process works through case studies, identify how different methods and tools used in the participatory planning process gain insight on the opportunities and challenges of participatory planning process in different scenarios and circumstances. In this topic, the three case studies which will be presented and analyzed are Porto Alegre Participatory Budgeting, Map Kibera Project, and Helsinki Urban Living Lab. Each case study demonstrates a distinctive participatory planning process with different aims, circumstances, outcomes, methods and tools. The case studies will begin by a brief information on the methods and tools used. Then, the case study itself will be presented. The first case study is Porto Alegre Participatory Budgeting. Participatory budgeting, PB, is a collaborative decision-making process where the community directly determines how public funds are spent. Rather than leaving financial choices solely to officials, this method provides citizens with transparent information about local projects and empowers them to prioritize spending to solve specific community problems. By involving the public in these financial trade-offs, the process achieves several goals. It builds public awareness regarding the financial risks and difficult compromises inherent in government budgeting. It gives residents a sense of accountability for the outcomes of their decisions. It allows governments to tap into the unique, on-the-ground knowledge that only residents possess. This approach is used worldwide to fund a variety of initiatives, including public works, maintaining infrastructure and funding new capital projects, social services, supporting dedicated programs for youth and individuals with disabilities, education, enhancing school-based services and facilities, local development, driving neighborhood-level improvements and refurbishment. Participatory budgeting, PB, in Porto Alegre, Brazil, is widely considered the birthplace of modern deliberative democracy. Launched in 1989 by the Workers' Party, Partido dos Trabalhadores or PT, following decades of military dictatorship, the program was designed to dismantle deeply entrenched patterns of clientelism, where public resources were traded for political favors, and replace them with a transparent, redistributive, and community-led decision-making process. At its height, PB in Porto Alegre involved tens of thousands of residents annually and has since been emulated by over 7,000 cities worldwide. The Porto Alegre model operates on a rigorous annual cycle that facilitates both local and city-wide deliberation. The process begins in the early months of the year with regional assemblies across the city's 17 administrative districts. These meetings are open to all citizens and serve two primary functions: reviewing the previous year's accounts and electing delegates to represent the district in subsequent rounds. Simultaneously, thematic assemblies focus on cross-cutting urban issues such as transportation, health, and economic development. Once priorities are established at the neighborhood level, the Council of the Participatory Budget, COP, composed of elected delegates, works alongside municipal technicians to reconcile community demands with the city's technical and financial constraints. The final investment plan is then integrated into the municipal budget and sent to the city council for formal approval. This structure ensures that the process is not merely consultative, it grants citizens legitimate power over a significant portion of the city's capital investment budget. The primary achievement of PB in Porto Alegre was the inversion of priorities, channeling infrastructure and services toward the city's poorest neighborhoods. Before 1989, only 75% of households had access to water and sewer connections. By 1997, after less than a decade of PB, that figure rose to 98%. Furthermore, health and education spending frequently reached 40% of the municipal budget, leading to measurable declines in infant mortality and improved literacy rates. Beyond physical infrastructure, the method fostered civic empowerment. It provided a school of citizenship, where marginalized residents, particularly women and low-income individuals, gained the technical and political skills to engage with the state as equals. By making public finance understandable and transparent, the project successfully reduced corruption and increased tax compliance, as residents could see their contributions directly funding local improvements. Despite its early success, the Porto Alegre model has faced significant challenges over the last 2 decades. Political shifts, including the Workers' Party losing the mayorship in 2004, led to a gradual weakening of the process. Nevertheless, the Porto Alegre experiment remains the definitive evidence that inclusive, bottom-up urban governance can effectively bridge the gap between social justice and technical planning. Building on the success of Porto Alegre, cities like Paris and Madrid started to use participatory budgeting (PB). While Porto Alegre focused on physical assembly and wealth redistribution, contemporary examples emphasize digital inclusion, transparency, and hybrid engagement. The second case study is Map Kibera project. Community mapping was used as a method in this case study. Community mapping is a collaborative practice where residents define and represent their own neighborhood's assets, challenges, and identity. In urban planning, this serves as a powerful qualitative tool to identify informal assets, like a street corner where elders gather or a shortcut used by school children, that rarely appear on official municipal maps. It often emphasizes the social process and collective storytelling over the purely technical data gathering aspects. At its core, community mapping is about spatial justice. It allows marginalized groups to challenge official narratives by visualizing their own realities. Unlike traditional surveys, the act of mapping together fosters social cohesion. The map becomes a boundary object that facilitates dialogue between residents who might otherwise never interact. The tools of community mapping range from low-tech mental mapping exercises where participants draw their neighborhoods from memory to sophisticated mobile apps that allow for real-time data collection such as Participatory Geographic Information Systems (PGIS). Participatory Geographic Information Systems (PGIS) and Public Participation GIS (PPGIS) represent a paradigm shift in urban planning and design by integrating local, subjective knowledge with objective spatial data. Traditionally, urban planning relied on top-down data sources, such as census reports and satellite imagery, to make decisions. PGIS, however, bridges this gap by providing tools that allow residents to map their own perceptions, values, and concerns. This bottom-up approach transforms the GIS from a purely technocratic tool into a platform for social learning and community empowerment. The methodology typically involves digital platforms where participants use interactive maps to drop points, draw polygons, or answer location-based surveys. These inputs are then aggregated and analyzed alongside layers of physical infrastructure and environmental data. Despite its benefits, the method faces challenges related to the digital divide, where certain demographic groups, such as the elderly or low-income residents, may have less access to the technology required to participate. To mitigate this, practitioners often use hybrid approaches, combining online tools with in-person workshops and paper-to-GIS techniques to ensure a more representative sample of the community. Map Kibera is a community-based participatory mapping project initiated in 2009 in Kibera, one of Nairobi's largest informal settlements. The project was supported by Ground Truth Initiative. Prior to the project, Kibera appeared as a blank area on most official maps, reflecting the broader issue of spatial invisibility of informal settlements in planning and governance processes. The core objective of Map Kibera was to empower local residents, particularly youth, by involving them directly in the production of spatial data. Community members were trained to use handheld GPS devices, open-source mapping tools such as OpenStreetMap, and basic data collection methods to map roads, pathways, public facilities, water points, sanitation infrastructure, health clinics, schools, and other elements of the built environment. From a participatory perspective, the project shifted mapping from a top-down, expert-driven practice to a bottom-up, citizen-led process. Local knowledge played a central role. Residents decided what should be mapped, how places were named, and which issues were most important to document. This helped ensure that the resulting maps reflected lived realities rather than external assumptions. For areas where digital literacy or device access was low, mappers used walking papers, printed OpenStreetMap maps with a QR code. Residents would draw or write information directly on the paper, which was then scanned and automatically georeferenced back into the digital OSM database. Beyond mapping, Map Kibera expanded into participatory media, including community-led reporting, video, and data visualization. One output was Voice of Kibera, a participatory news platform where, using Ushahidi, geotagged SMS reports from residents are displayed on a public map, and the other is the Kibera News Network, KNN, a video journalism initiative. These layers of spatial and narrative data provide a holistic view of the settlement's reality, bridging the gap between local lived experience and formal urban planning. These tools enabled residents to use maps as advocacy instruments, supporting dialogue with NGOs, local authorities, and service providers on issues such as infrastructure provision, public health, and spatial justice. For example, the project involved the creation of thematic maps focused on security, specifically pinpointing black spots where crime or gender-based violence was prevalent. By visualizing these risks, the community successfully lobbied for the installation of streetlights and the establishment of new police posts in formerly unlit, dangerous areas. In the context of the built environment, Map Kibera demonstrates how participatory mapping can make informal urban areas visible, generate alternative spatial knowledge, and support more inclusive planning processes. Rather than treating residents as passive beneficiaries, the project positions them as co-producers of urban knowledge and active stakeholders in shaping their environment. Overall, Map Kibera is widely recognized as a landmark example of how community participation, digital tools, and open data can intersect to challenge power relations in urban planning and contribute to more equitable and context-sensitive approaches to the built environment. The third case study is Helsinki Urban Living Lab. Urban Living Labs, ULLs, is a shift in urban planning from traditional top-down decision-making to a co-creative, quadruple helix model involving government, academia, industry, and citizens. Unlike standard public consultations, which often occur late in the design process, ULLs function as real-life laboratories, where residents are engaged as active partners from the idea stage through to testing and evaluation. This process emphasizes experimentation in place, allowing for small-scale, initial low-cost, agile pilots to be conducted in specific city districts before they are scaled up with the main goal of learning together. The participatory strength of ULLs lies in their ability to bridge the gap between abstract policy and everyday lived experience. By utilizing tools such as co-design workshops, digital twins, and collaborative mapping, ULLs empower citizens to influence the urban fabric according to their specific local needs. This learning-by-doing approach not only produces more sustainable and context-aware urban solutions but also fosters social capital and civic ownership, as residents see their input directly manifested in their physical environment. Helsinki is a global pioneer in the Urban Living Lab (ULL) movement. The urban labs work as real-world environments where residents, companies, and city officials co-create and test smart city solutions. Participatory planning in Helsinki's ULLs is built on the agile piloting model. Smart Kalasatama is a former brownfield district in Helsinki which was turned into a smart city experimental innovation platform to co-create smart and clean urban infrastructure and services. It works as an urban living lab and is developed flexibly through pilot projects, with 200-plus stakeholders including residents, companies, city officials and researchers working closely together. The vision of Kalasatama is built on the philosophy that the city should be a platform that delivers services to people, rather than people to services. In the Agile piloting program between 2015 and 2021, over 25 Agile pilots were conducted in Kalasatama. These were short-term, typically 6-month, experiments funded with small grants to test prototypes in a real-world setting. Residents acted as beta testers for these startups. For example, in the Faller pilot, residents tested a system for real-time automated pricing of food near its expiration date to reduce food waste and shopping time. If a pilot saved time or improved quality of life, as verified by resident feedback, the city explored scaling the solution. Through Forum Virium Helsinki, city's innovation company which oversees the urban living labs, the city developed the Helsinki 3D Plus, Helsinki Digital Twin. A digital twin is a virtual copy of the city. It gathers and visualizes information from different sources, such as maps, sensors, and statistics, into a single, easy-to-understand view. The main participatory applications in the Helsinki 3D Plus are as follows. The Energy and Climate Atlas. It allows homeowners and residents to see the solar energy potential and heating efficiency of their own buildings. By clicking on their house in the 3D model, citizens can visualize how retrofitting or solar panels would impact their energy bills and the city's carbon neutrality goals. Green Twins Project. Residents use a dynamic vegetation layer to see how new parks or street trees will grow over 10 to 20 years, helping them understand the long-term shading and cooling benefits in their specific micro-neighborhood. Shadow and wind simulations. During planning sessions, the city uses the twin to show residents how a proposed high-rise would affect the sunlight in their local playground or the wind speed on their street. Helsinki also uses Gen AI, tools like Urbanist AI, to bridge the gap between a resident's idea and a professional architectural rendering. For example, in the Summer Streets Initiative, 2023 to 2025, for the redesign of central streets, Helsinki uses AI-assisted workshops. Residents take a current photo of a car-heavy street and, using text prompts, e.g., more greenery, wooden benches, and a bike lane, the AI generates a photorealistic version of that idea in seconds. This allows children, the elderly, and those without technical training to draw their ideas. These AI-generated visions are then voted on by the community. The most popular visuals are handed to professional planners who use them as the functional brief for the final engineering design. When we look at the three case studies in a comparative glance, we can identify the following. Porto Alegre participatory budgeting, as a tool for redistributive justice, aims to invert historical spending patterns by prioritizing the needs of the poor through political reform. In contrast, the MAP Kibera project focuses on information empowerment, seeking to give visibility to marginalized slum dwellers by creating open-source data where none existed. The Helsinki Urban Living Lab shifts the focus towards smart city innovation, using citizen feedback to refine technological efficiency and urban sustainability in a real-world, testing, environment. In Porto Alegre, the process is a hybrid driven by the municipal government in partnership with grassroots social movements, making it a state-led institutionalized process. MAP Kibera is a purely bottom-up initiative led by an NGO and local community youth, operating independently of the state to create its own data. The Helsinki model functions as a 4P partnership, public-private people partnership, where the city, private companies, and research institutions lead the agenda, and citizens participate as co-creators. Porto Alegre utilizes deliberative assemblies, a traditional, high-commitment method of face-to-face debate and collective voting to reach a consensus. MAP Kibera employs participatory mapping, where technology-trained residents collect GPS data and narratives to build a digital community archive. Helsinki relies on agile piloting, where small-scale innovations are launched in specific neighborhoods for a limited time to gather user data. The tools in Porto Alegre are purposefully low-tech, relying on paper ballots, priority tables, and physical council meetings to remain accessible to all literacy levels. MAP Kibera leverages open-source digital tools like OpenStreetMap and Ushahidi, utilizing handheld GPS units to bridge the gap between informal neighborhoods and formal digital systems. Helsinki uses high-tech sensors and digital twins to model and monitor urban behavior in real time. In terms of actual influence, Porto Alegre represents the highest scale of citizen power, as the outcomes of the vote are legally binding and directly determine municipal spending. MAP Kibera operates at the scale of advocacy, where the map provides soft power by giving residents the evidence they need to lobby for government services. Helsinki typically sits at the scale of consultation and co-design, where citizen feedback influences the development of products and services, but rarely gives residents direct control over the city's legislative budget. The key takeaways from this topic are: there can be different areas where participatory planning can be utilized. There are different participatory methods and tools for different scenarios and circumstances. Participatory planning processes can have different outcomes at different levels, such as citizen control, advocacy, empowerment, collaboration, etc. Participatory tools used do not have to be low-tech or high-tech exclusively. They can be hybrid, incorporating both to adapt to circumstances. Successful methods can be replicated with contemporary modifications, such as incorporating digital technology like participatory budgeting in Paris and Madrid. High-tech methods can be helpful in some instances in empowering local people with necessary skills to participate.